The world we see around us feels divided into countless separate pieces, individual people, distinct objects, isolated experiences that seem to have nothing to do with each other. We walk through life feeling fundamentally alone, even in crowded rooms, even surrounded by family and friends. This sense of separation isn't just uncomfortable, it feels like the very nature of reality itself. But what if this perception is actually the source of all our suffering? Chapter 4 of the text in A Course in Miracles offers us a profound insight. Everything the ego perceives is a separate whole, without the relationships that imply being. Think about that for a moment. The ego doesn't just see things as separate, it literally cannot perceive the connections that give life meaning. This fragmented vision becomes the lens through which we interpret everything. When we look at another person, we don't see a fellow traveler sharing the same essential nature. Instead, we see someone fundamentally different, potentially threatening, certainly separate from ourselves. When we experience an emotion, we don't recognize it as part of the universal human experience. We feel isolated in our pain or even in our joy. This way of seeing creates what we might call a hall of mirrors, where every reflection shows us more separation, more reasons to feel alone. Our relationships become transactions rather than connections. Our work becomes survival rather than service. Even our spiritual seeking can become another way to feel special and separate rather than recognizing our shared divine nature. When we communicate from this place of perceived separation, something fascinating and tragic happens. We're no longer trying to truly connect with another person. Instead, we're defending ourselves against what we perceive as threats to our separate identity. The ego uses communication as a form of control. Every conversation becomes a chess game where we're trying to protect our position, prove our point, or get what we think we need. We listen not to understand, but to formulate our response. We speak not to share truth, but to maintain our carefully constructed self-image. This defensive communication creates exactly what we fear most, more separation. When someone shares their pain with us, instead of recognizing our shared vulnerability, we might offer quick fixes or change the subject because their suffering makes us uncomfortable. When someone expresses joy, instead of celebrating together, we might feel envious or diminished by their happiness. Think about your last difficult conversation. Chances are, both people were defending rather than connecting, speaking past each other rather than to each other. This isn't because we're bad people, it's because we've been operating from a fundamental misunderstanding about what communication is for. The ego believes communication exists to protect the separate self. But what if that's backwards? There's another way to communicate, and it flows from a completely different understanding of what we are. As Chapter 4 reminds us, Spirit is in complete and direct communication with every aspect of creation, because it is in complete and direct communication with its Creator. This isn't describing some special ability that only mystics possess. This is describing our natural state, the way we actually are beneath all the layers of learned separation. When we communicate from Spirit, we're not defending anything because we recognize there's nothing to defend. We're not trying to get anything because we know we already have everything we need. Communication from Spirit feels completely different. There's a quality of presence, of genuine curiosity about the other person's experience. There's space for silence, for not knowing, for being surprised by what emerges in the conversation. We find ourselves saying things we didn't plan to say, and hearing things we weren't expecting to hear. This kind of communication doesn't require perfect words or special training. It simply requires a willingness to drop our defenses and remember that the person in front of us shares our deepest nature. In these moments, something beautiful happens. We stop feeling alone. Not because we've gotten something from the other person, but because we've remembered what connection actually feels like. Here's where A Course in Miracles offers us perhaps its most radical teaching. Creation and communication are synonymous. This means that the very reason we exist is because the divine mind communicated itself, shared itself, extended itself into us. We are literally thoughts in the mind of God, which means we exist because of an act of perfect communication. This isn't just beautiful poetry, it reveals something profound about our fundamental nature and purpose. We weren't created as separate beings who then have to figure out how to connect. We were created as expressions of divine communication itself. Every moment of our lives, we have the opportunity to participate in this original creative act. When we speak truthfully, when we listen with genuine openness, when we allow love to move through us in our interactions, We're not just having nice conversations. We're fulfilling our deepest purpose as expressions of divine creativity. This transforms how we see every encounter. The checkout clerk at the grocery store, the difficult family member, the stranger on the bus, each becomes an opportunity to remember and express our true nature. Each conversation becomes a chance to practice the kind of communication that created us in the first place. Even when we forget this truth, and we will forget, probably many times each day, something remarkable remains intact. The Course teaches us that our capacity for true communication cannot be destroyed, only temporarily ignored. No matter how defensive we become, no matter how separated we feel, no matter how convinced we are that we're alone in an uncaring universe, there's something in us that remains perfectly connected to all of life. It's like having a phone that always works, even when we choose not to answer it. This gives us tremendous hope. Our mistakes in communication, our moments of defensiveness, our periods of feeling completely isolated, none of these can actually damage our fundamental nature. They're more like clouds passing over the Sunday. The sun doesn't stop shining just because we can't see it for a while. Knowing this, we can be gentler with ourselves and others when communication breaks down. We can see defensive behavior in ourselves and others as a sign that someone has temporarily forgotten their true nature, not as evidence that they're fundamentally flawed. This understanding naturally leads to forgiveness, both of ourselves and others, which opens the door for authentic connection to return. When we remember that we were created both by and for divine communication, everything changes. We stop seeing other people as sources of what we lack and start recognizing them as fellow expressions of the same creative love that brought us into being. Our purpose becomes clear. We're here to remember and express our true nature as channels of divine communication. This doesn't mean we need to be perfect or never struggle with defensiveness. It means we can approach each interaction with curiosity rather than fear, with openness rather than protection. Every conversation becomes an opportunity to practice returning to our natural state of connection. Every moment of genuine listening becomes a small miracle. Every time we speak from love rather than fear, we're participating in the ongoing creation of the universe. This is both our inheritance and our gift to the world. When we communicate from this place of remembering our true nature, we create space for others to remember theirs as well. We become part of the solution to the world's loneliness, not through trying to fix anyone, but simply by being willing to connect authentically. If this resonates with you, perhaps you'll share these insights with someone who might benefit from remembering their true nature as well. We're all walking each other home to the love we've never actually left. May you find peace in knowing that you are never truly alone, and may you discover the joy of expressing your divine nature through every authentic connection you make.